What happens when you take two guys from New York who absolutely love to talk and give them a license to rant? You get your hosts, John Peasy and Mikey Sausage.
Okay, there we go. After all of that, Mike, after all of that.
Peasy with earphones. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow. First show out of 2 seasons. Yes, the first show with earphones. And it's very uncomfortable. It's almost it's good for you, right?
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. I can dance it now. That's why I feel so energetic. I'm very happy.
We can interact with one another.
That you're coming into the 21st century now and getting on board with this.
Dude, I'm usually technically very, very good. Unfortunately, this earphone thing was when our producer there, Leland, would say, get earphones, I'm always thinking he wants me to wear those big goofy things. And I never was seeing this, but this is comfortable. I hear you very well. And we can interrupt each other now without like one voice overriding the other, which was problematic. And this has all been my fault because I've not adopted.
They wear on television. They wear this on television. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we got these. I don't know. You told me to get these. Are the best ear sets you could get, right? Apparently, the $100 corded ear sets.
Leland, see if you notice, like DZ just set that up. So he said, "You told me to get these." So if they're bad, he can blame me. So that's exactly what that whole thing was for. He'll never give me credit. Anyway. He just sets me up for later. Like, say it's always me.
It's always a setup. Yes, it's always a setup.
Have you been busy working, Mr. Peasy?
Dude, I'm on fire. On fire.
Really?
Shows what? Wow. Yeah, on fire. I just looked at my schedule now. I don't think I have a day off till like second, third week of August. It's really like unbelievable. Have you
been working outside in this 100-degree weather?
Yes, I call this the summer of sweat.
What happens with your makeup? Does your makeup come off like Rudy Giuliani's hair dye?
I don't wear it for those out. I don't. Yeah, I got it all dripping down the side. This is if all the world's a stage, I wanted it with air conditioning because I've done shows in the mornings and shows for corporate events outdoors, and you see these people eating hot dogs and drinking coffee, sweltering, eating donuts, and I'm like, why? I don't know. If the great outdoors, I'm not a great outdoors person. I like indoors. I like air conditioning. Now, this studio, by the way, it's like 48 degrees in here right now. I'm like frozen, as a matter of fact. But for the most part, it's been on fire. Comedy's on fire.
I'm going to cut you off again. Now, Leland, sure. I want you to understand. I want you to see a second point. How I started talking about him wearing makeup, and he came right off the subject. He didn't want to talk about makeup or wearing that makeup.
I don't wear makeup to do I don't do makeup to do a private party underneath a hangout. I don't wear makeup.
Don't lie.
I will put on makeup if I'm on a stage. Like I'm going to Villa Roma on Wednesday.
No, don't lie. I'll wear. Don't lie because I've been to an event and like we say hello like Italians, we hug each other. Hey, how are you? And I go home and I got makeup all over me. And my girlfriend said, what girl were you with? I said, no, I hugged John Peasy. she still don't believe me. So.
Okay, all right, yeah. The first part is where's his girlfriend? I haven't seen his girlfriend yet. I haven't even.
Oh, I'm talking about years. I'm not talking about now. Talking about years ago. I'm not talking about now.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, that was.
I'm not worried about. Yeah, I'm not worried about women right now.
This before I was a transgender.
I got kids in college. I can't worry about women right now. All right, so
I hear you.
I want to know about our guests.
Yeah, this is really great, and we should stop bantering and bring it right on because I have to tell you, I know our booker there, John Galasso.
That was the idea when I said, "Tell me about our guest."
Oh, thank you very much, condescendingly.
Okay. No problem.
Sausage is all this. How many gummy bears did you eat today? You were always like falling asleep today. Today you're on fire.
Listen. You got to understand something. You can't keep saying gummy bears because in the world we are right now, they associate that with marijuana, right?
You're right.
So so let me just straight. I do not eat marijuana gummy bears. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It just does not agree with me. Okay,
He's just smoking
because
crack instead.
if I eat some marijuana gummy bears, all of a sudden I'll start hearing helicopters and cops and everything will be going on over here. So I just
absolutely.
So
we don't
Mr.
condone it. Then again, we live in a world where you're allowed to smoke all the
Oh,
marijuana
it's fine.
you want now, right?
Listen, I think all drugs should be legal. I don't really care. I'm just saying everybody should do what they want, and then if drugs are legal, would be better.
Look at today. They shot to the moon. Did you see that? They did a big space shot today. Did you see that whole thing?
Okay.
Yeah.
And
we can't grow hair.
I want to know about our guest.
Oh, so this is really wonderful, and the reason why is because, and I haven't read this lady's book, which I'm really looking forward to read it because I researched a lot before I did. It's the same way John Galasso did. There she is, beautiful lady, and she has a wonderful new book out called The Magic Connection, which I am going to definitely read. More importantly, now her name is Michelle Welch, and Michelle Welch is an author of The Magic Connection. It's a wonderful book about changing your spiritual energy, and she's a clairvoyant. She owns a couple of stores called SoulTopia, which are metaphysical stores, I believe, in Dallas, Texas. And I don't know about you, I love visiting these kind of stores, and you go in and you can buy like all these great things. And she also does readings as well, and she's a lawyer. I mean, what doesn't this lady do? I mean, I'm really super interested to find out why you become a lawyer and then all of a sudden jump from that into SoulTopia. So you must have a really strong yearning and calling in order to do this. Now, she also has on her website, allows people to come and have readings with her where she could help you out as well, which is really wonderful. So anyway, let's please bring her on. This is Michelle Welch, the author of this the wonderful book, Psychic Spiritual Journey, Clairvoyant. Michelle Welch of The Magic Connection. Come on in.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. Hi. It's great to be on.
Thanks. Apologize for all the delays in the
the Magic Connection is not like the Rainbow Connection, Kermit the Frog, right? It's different.
No. We could have a song, though. I mean, if somebody wanted to come up with a song for the book, that'd be really cool. But no, it's not. It's really about, I wrote it to talk about everybody connecting, because even before COVID, I was just like, especially in Texas, it just seemed like everybody was, well, maybe not just in Texas, but there's a lot of, Texas is big. Everybody thinks of Texas as one way, but there's a lot of differing opinions in Texas. Not everybody's Ted Cruz, not everybody's whatever, there's a lot of differing opinions, and there was just, everybody was fighting so much and just arguing about every single thing, and everywhere you went, and even in spiritual, for lack of a better word, circles, it was like, cut that person off, don't ever speak to them again. And I just know, even from being in law for so long and just watching, you think that you're going to divorce someone and you're never going to see them again. But if you have children together, you're going to have to work through some things. So I decided to write this book, The Magic of Connection, on some of those things and how we work through the chaos of the times. And then it went into COVID. So yeah, it's The Magic of Connection.
Now, The Magic Connection came out. This came out in January of 2021. Am I correct? Which is just when everything started to fall apart, kind of. You didn't plan on that.
Exactly. No. Yeah. And so, right. And so when I was writing it, I wrote my publisher and I was like, well, I'm depressed. I mean, and this is a hard time to write a book. This is difficult. And she said, well, put your book to use then, because it's about changing the form of energy into what we want it to be. So I really had the opportunity to talk about, in my book, I don't specifically talk about COVID because I wanted it to be more timeless. I do believe that my book's a little tiny bit about before its time. I talk a lot about empaths, which everyone's talked about empaths, but a lot of the books don't tell us how to be empaths. They just tell us that we are empathic. They don't tell us what to do with that. They kind of tell us what we can't do. And I wanted to teach us how we can change energy, and then we actually can do a lot of things that I sell in my store. My goal would be to put, and we have 3 stores now. My goal would be, hey, we could go out of business if we could all learn that we can do all the things that we are using crystals and other things like that to help us with. We could magically, in a way, learn to do that ourselves, to transform energy. And so it's like I began to talk about
real magic. You're talking about, I mean, in a sense, almost it's like real magic in a sense, is it not?
Yeah, it's like real magic, like alchemy. And so I'm not any secret alchemy society. There are those things, but I'm talking about a lay person, a regular person, really being able to take energy, because there's only a limited amount of energy. It never goes away. It only changes form. That's thermodynamics. And so, and that's physics. So I just am talking about, let's just change the form of the energy. It may be at a different vibration, and we might not be cool with the vibration. I mean, somebody may look at me and like, oh, I don't like her because of whatever, but it's energy, and we're all one. We're all part of that one energy. We just vibrate at different levels. And so that's what I was really trying to get at with people is, let's start seeing how we can adjust and attune to, our energy and our vibration, and realize that we're really one. And I talked to a guy, his name's Hakeem Olushey, and he is an astrophysicist that went to Stanford. He wrote a book called A Quantum Life. And it was so cool talking. It just came out, I think, in June. And his story's great anyway, but he literally said, as an astrophysicist, which they talk a lot about quantum physicists or quantum physics, entanglement theory and us all being one. And that was kind of a fringe science for a while. And then I'm probably in a fringe spirituality, I would call it. They're starting to kind of come together. And that's a really cool thing to see, that he was saying, yeah, I believe in parallel universes. I believe in multiverses. I believe that we're all one and we can be doing different things. And it's according to our choices, and that we have free will in the things that we do, and we can change the energy. So that's what my book's really about, that we don't have to just say, everything's, so during COVID, to go back to, I didn't answer your question. During COVID, I didn't really write specifically about COVID in my book. It's in the foreword, because I do think it's a timeless book that'll go forward as people learn to not just want to stay in empathy and like blame. Sometimes I would blame my energy. I'd just be like, well, I'm an empath. I just feel things really deeply. So I'm sorry, I can't deal with that. And I'm saying I would do that. They really hurt my feelings. And so I can't deal with that. And so I need to learn to evolve and to transmute that energy into something that will work for me, and manage my own energy first, instead of always blaming everybody else's energy before I manage and mind my own energy.
I believe in that a lot. I have a friend, and this guy, I have never, and I could really state this with a fact. This guy I've never seen him in a bad mood. He's happy and smiling, and it's, no matter what's going on, he always has this great attitude and great energy. And like, if I ever felt myself like feeling something, I would call him and say, hey, you want to go to dinner tonight? And like, because I know that when I get around this guy, it just comes off him. It's the craziest thing, but it works like crazy. And, like anybody else, even like some days you feel, I kind of like try to change the energy in my brain and try to bring it forward another way. It's not always easy, but I think if you have someone else that has really good energy, I think it just comes off him in such a way. It's like, he's the guy that you want to be around like every day of your life, because he just doesn't have a bad day. It's insane.
And we kind of entrain to that energy. So we entrain to whatever is a vibration we want to entrain to. So if there's a party and all of a sudden everybody's having a great time, and a real downer person, and I'm not saying we have to be fake. I believe in looking at our shadow side. I believe in looking at the things that are tough in our life. I've had depression in my life. I'm not always, let's be fake Texan Michelle, from the South. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about trying to lean into the energy of positivity instead of this negativity bias that we have right now. And I think across the world, we have this, we're always looking for, the negativity and the negative, instead of kind of looking for the positive. And that doesn't mean I'm a Pollyanna either, because I am a lawyer. So I see both sides of things, and I'm real quick to pick things apart and to go, well, what about this? And play devil's advocate of the other side. But I really believe that we can lean into the energy and entrain when that person at that party, if you're having a great time, and all of a sudden this really, I don't know, from SNL, there used to be that, and I don't if anybody, but like that Debbie Downer. Okay. No, sorry, Debbie, but there was on SNL. It was like, do you remember that? The Debbie Downer, she'd come in and you're like, okay, now, and it changed, and, and the whole party kind of adjust and entrains to that instead of elevating up. If somebody else comes in the room, like your friend, who that elevates you up to like a higher, and it's not that it's judging it as better or worse. It's just how it makes you feel and how you want to feel.
I believe they call them a Karen now. I don't believe Debbie Downer. I think Karen.
I was thinking that. I was thinking the same thing, and I didn't say that, Mikey. But let me ask you this: Is Mike a psychic vampire if he's using his friends to suck their energy out of him when he's feeling down?
I thought about it. So I use the term, kind of, but that's okay because his friend wants to give off probably some good energy and probably has enough to spare. I use the term transmutation vampire in my book, and I was hesitant to use it because I thought, okay, just the word vampire, people are going to freak out, but I believe we can take, if somebody throws, the person who just like throws shade, and they're not joking, it's not fun, they're just always throwing shade at you. You're walking by, they're just always rude, and it. That's energy. That's a form of energy, and it's real. And so I don't have to do anything to that person. I don't want to. I don't want to harm that person anyway. That's karma back on me. But I can sweep up that energy and I can form it into something like vitality for myself instead of that letting that get me down. And it is, Mikey, like you were saying, like a lot of visualization is to sweep that up and form it into something vital for myself. And that to me is a transmutation vampire. And because I'm changing the form of energy. They've thrown something. It's the opposite. They've thrown, even when I look at juries, and they're staring back at you like, like what? And I can know because I'm psychic. Oh, they don't like my shoes. I can't wear these shoes tomorrow because that lady on whatever, she better not be on the jury because she doesn't like the shoes I'm wearing or whatever it was I could tell. Then I would always need to, so I wouldn't get down. I would need to, transmute that energy into a different, and it's very difficult. That's why I have like 50 exercises in the book. And now everyone throws it at me though. Every time I'm down, they're like, just use your book. And I'm like, I'm trying, but you can, instead of and I volunteer, have had for years at a women's shelter. And, men are abused too. So whoever, abusive situations. And I'm not saying don't have good boundaries. That's imperative. I'm talking about just knowing that we're all connected. And at some point we cannot just cut and put bubbles around ourselves and build up walls behind ourselves, because we're going to end up behind it. We're going to be the one there. So if we haven't worked on our own energy and managed our own energy, I'm going to be there with myself. And all of a sudden I'm going to go, oh, like, damn, that was me the whole time. That was the one that I needed to be working on a lot of the stuff that's going on, right? I'm not talking about blame, but if I'm behind the wall by myself or I'm on a desert island by myself, all of a sudden I realized maybe some of those issues were mine that I also needed to work on.
I'm just thinking too, can you back up a second and go to the very beginning? Because how does a person that's a lawyer become into this? That's the first thing I'm thinking about. And by the way, I volunteered for a Chinese shelter, ladies shelter. They were women that were slightly battered. That's a terrible joke.
Oh,
I just couldn't help but get it out.
I thought you were honest. That's really awesome.
No, it's a terrible joke. I just couldn't get it out. Well, but how do you go from a lawyer to here, A to B?
Okay, so I like how you asked it. First of all, thank you, because I was on I think it was a sports radio thing or something, and the guy said, "How'd you fall so far down?" And I said, I did, and I chose this. I still have my license. I had, actually, it's funny, 3 law firms with my ex-husband, and part of it was that have children with my ex-husband.
Why do they consider it falling down? I don't understand that.
Yeah,
you tell me.
You chose to be. But you chose to be a lawyer. I don't think you chose any of these others. I don't want to call it a skill or things that you were born with. your, intuition or psychic or medium or, clairvoyant, whatever it is that you have. This is something that you were born with and you've, perfected as you've gotten older, correct? And gotten better at it. And yeah. So it's not
exactly
a calling. And what if you like being a lawyer, but you love the other stuff? I'd rather do what I love than what I like.
That's what I said too. That's what I said. I was like, I've already done it every time I picked a jury. And he was like, isn't that cheating? And now I'm really calling this guy out on, I don't even know his name. But and I was like, no, it's not cheating. I mean, I can't help it. I knew what people, I can't read everybody's mind or I'd be running the world, right? I mean, that's BS to say that I can tell everybody's, I mean, that's not true. But I have had these gifts from a young age, and they are a lot of those clairs that you mentioned, the clear seeing, the clear knowing. A lot of it was just clear knowing. A lot of mine were medical. One of my first things was really pretty sad that I remember was I said something. I walked up behind my uncle and I put my hands on his head, and I was kind of behind the couch and he was sitting on the couch, and he was my godfather and very close to him. And I said, what is in your brain? Like, it's what's moving in your brain. And I got sent to my room only to find out a month later he was diagnosed with brain cancer, and he died of that brain cancer. And so I believe in going to doctors and all that kind of stuff. Disclaimer. But it's the giftings were always there, and I just used them in law. And I thought, dang, I'm smart. I'm really good at picking juries. And then I realized, yeah, I worked hard, but I'm also not all that smart. A lot of this is just intuition, I mean, I'm a hard worker, but I might not be the smartest, cookie or, in the cookie jar. I'm just working really hard, and I am very intuitive. And I'm kind of reclaiming that word psychic, because it basically means the same thing as faith, just believing in something you can't really explain.
That's got to be so rough for the kids, like your daughter or son, like, no, I didn't take the cookie from the cookie jar. And you're like, oh, yes, you did. I know you did.
They do. They are kind of, it's funny. They are like that. And my middle son, he says, the other ones say I'm psychic, and they'll call me and, okay, Mom, tell me what's going to go on. Or one of them, the oldest, is like, don't. And I'm like, well, it's free will. We can course correct. We can change things. That's the big thing about readings that I want to emphasize. That's why you want to, like, forewarned is forearmed, and you can course correct with and my kids will, one of them will be like, Mom, you just read people well. I mean, you were just a good juror because you would read their body language, and I was like, well, it's not that would be true if I had ever studied any of that stuff. But this was, like you said, from such a young age. And I will tell you, from a young age, it's not a fun thing to have. It's not fun at all, because you're not, and especially when you're not necessarily, you're in a wonderful home, a wonderful, loving home, but not a wonderful, loving home that wants to nurture those gifts or knows how.
Yeah.
And
that's got to suck. People, they're punishing you for something that you probably don't even know what the hell's going on. It's not good.
No clue.
But I believe a mother anyway already has an intuition with her kids, because you could be the father of children, but it's not like being the mother of children, because you always have that innate connection forever. Just like, and you hear it all the time. Like, mother has a bad feeling about their kid, something happened. Or I believe in that, because my mother is like that. So, like, she could know when you're up to no good, or if something was wrong, or if you were happy or sad. And, they just have that intuition to begin with. And then you add some of the skill level to it. Now you're not playing fair. So I'm sure your kids aren't too happy.
It's always pretty funny still to have them. And they're very, have been very supportive of my career change. And I'm very proud of when I actually asked my oldest son, who's gay, I said, can I use the term I came out? Or is that like offensive if I say I came out about being psychic? He was like, no, you did. You came out. Because I live in Texas. I live in the Bible Belt, And so when I decided to say, okay, you can actually tell people that this is what I do. And it's interesting because the lawyers and judges, some that I'm pretty good friends with, real good friends with, they were like, thank God. I mean, that just explains so much about you, Michelle, because a lot of times I'll just be like looking off. And when I do mediumship, I do it a lot differently than different mediums that you might have on the show or anything. I'm very different, and friends of mine that do it. I'm not part of the spiritualist church or anything like that. Mediumship for me, I don't even believe there's a veil, because from a very young age, I saw a lot of spirits. I remember being in church, and you'll sing like "Hark the Herald Angels Sing" or something like that at Christmas, and I'd be like, well, look, there's the angel. There's something like right over there. And when my grandmother passed, whom God love her, she was 106 years old. She's my hero. And there were angels in the room. And a 12-year-old little girl was there playing the violin from church. She was there. And my grandmother saw these angels. I saw the angels. But it's so surprising to me that these are, religious people, but they get kind of upset if you point and say there they are in the church, but no, really, there's some spirit right over there. And it was just from a very, I never really felt that difference in the veil. So when I talk about mediumship, I just kind of shifted to that. Because you were talking about your mom, and I don't know if she's still living, but when when you talk about those connections you have with people, whether living or not living, to me, there's not a huge difference when I even do readings for those energies, because again, to me, everything goes back to energy. And that thing where everybody talks about that veil, I've never even known what they're talking about. I heard it in church all the time, or where the veil's thinner and you can get in touch with spirits more at this time. And I'm like, okay, I see them. So, and enough to people wonder when I was younger, my parents were like, okay, do we got is she, a little,
we're gonna lock her up.
What do these people look like? What do these spirits look like to you? I mean, because we don't have the advantage of seeing what you're seeing. What is it that you're clearly seeing? Is it ethereal? Is it like ghostly? Is it physical? Is it see-through? What is it? What is it actually what you're seeing?
Thank you for asking, because that's my next book. And so I'm already contracted to do it. So, and I think you do have the advantage to see it if you wanted to and worked on it. But, so sorry to take issue with that, but I think you could, honestly. Different. So there's disincarnate, like what people would call ghost. And I don't even with that, I don't believe in like being scared of them always. I think we should talk. So I'll answer your question really fast. I feel sorry for them, because I think a lot of the places, the ghost hunters and the tourist traps, I'll go and I have just such sadness and compassion, because I don't want them to be stuck where they are. And people just make a they're going, it's like this tourist thing, can I see the ghost? And I'm thinking, well, you're not a real ghost hunter if you're shocked when you see a ghost, because if you're used to seeing ghosts, then you should see, if you're used to seeing spirits, why are you shocked to see a spirit? I mean, I'm not shocked to see a spirit. I think you see things the way you believe. So when I was younger, I was taught to believe in angels. The four major religions agree on angels. They don't agree necessarily on what each angel does, but they do agree. It's one thing a lot of people can agree on, and is that there is such a thing. They believe in angels. But I saw them the way, but I don't see them exactly the same way now. I see them, this is going to sound a little crazy, but I see them a little more E.T. angel-ish is what I see now. Yeah, I'm serious. And I don't even believe in
I don't know what that means. Can you clarify that?
Like an alien?
Kind of alien / angel being. They don't look like your typical, really pretty, beautiful angel with the wings and when you're talking about if I talk about Archangel Michael, he's huge and comes with legions of angels, and he can smite a city like that. People talk like he's only good and he's coming to defend me. But if you're on his side of righteousness, if you're not on his side of righteousness, he might not, So I see, you asked what all I see. Spirits, I can see, I just, the one of them recently that I saw was not so good. It was more, I believe in duality. So I don't know if you call things positive or negative. I talk about in this book, in The Magic of Connection, there's really no distinction without comparison. So if you didn't really have any good to compare to bad, I don't know how you would compare what's good and what's bad. But it felt really malicious to me. My husband has diabetes, and there was this figure just kind of leaning over the bed over my husband, and his A1C, I think you call it, was up to like 12. Like, it was very high. That's not good. Like, that's the top of the chart. And she, I don't know, even though I can do medical mediumship, I'll touch your head and I'll go, your knee hurts. I don't know where parts of, like things are, or I don't claim to be a doctor or anything. I'll go like, oh, whoa, your knee hurts or something. And I didn't know where his spleen or anything having to do with diabetes would be, but she was leaning over and it was this spirit. And to this day, that's the one. Not many of them scare me, but since you asked, that's the one of the spirits. And are they ethereal or are they full body? And that was one that really bothered me. That I kind of said, get out of my house, tried to, kind of banish from the house. And she kind of really scared me. And as a child, they all scared me. Everything scared me.
Can we deconstruct this a little bit though? Because as you're saying this, I'm getting, my mind is popping with all these different questions. I'm starting to think, well, first of all, you're saying that they when you say alien based, the first thing I think of is that, well, maybe these angels that you think are angels are more or less not angel. Maybe they're aliens. Maybe they are aliens portraying a veil of who they want you to appear as. Maybe they are malicious. Maybe they're not benevolent. Maybe, that's number one. And then you also say that the one that's attached to the thigh of your husband at that moment, that it's wrong. Well, if that thing is wrong, what's it doing there? Is it trying to feed off of your husband? Is it trying to take him out? Is that the thing that's increasing his ACUL or whatever that was?
A1C, and it's not my gummy bears. Let's know that.
The answer number on the first one.
It's a big issue.
And I didn't mean to open it all up, but you asked the question how I see them, and I'm just going to be, that's how I see a lot of them. And because that's what I'm talking about this book, but the next book, it's going to be so interesting because it is, I decided to go there and be honest that's what I see. And since I've been little, and I don't understand when people say, so they're so surprised when they see something. Yep. Oh, and they're, they're a medium or the whatever, and they're so surprised that they connect with somebody. I'm like, well, shouldn't you be? I mean, that's not so unusual.
It's common
but
for you.
I'm not being rude. I'm just saying.
I know you're not lying. I know you're telling the truth because
me.
every time you speak about it, I see you look in the left-hand side of your head, looking up, trying to envision what you've seen. I could see you in your mind's eye thinking about what you've seen. So I know you're telling the truth about what's going on in your life.
We have had other guests on that believe that when you pass, the aliens take you to the next place, your next level. So it's like it's not far off.
Yeah.
No, everybody has a lot. We've heard a lot of different things, right? So you're kind of melding a couple of things that we've heard kind of together. So what we've heard, because you know why? Because
I think there's a shift going. I really do, because it's a shift, because and it's interesting because I'm like, really, I'm not interested in on this alien stuff. Give me something, why am I seeing that? I'm not interested, really. That's not my interest, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to see what you're going to see. And it's interesting because this has been just like in the past 4 to 5 years. And what I was trying to say is maybe because my mind has become a little more open to the fact that anything could exist in any form, because everything's energy. And I do agree. I can't really judge, is it malevolent, is it benevolent, except for by how it feels to me. And I talk about that in this book, because there's a spectrum of.
I have a couple of quick questions here. If we could just buzz through these real quick, because there's so many things I'd like to address here. First of all, the first time I'm thinking, you live in Texas. Those aliens are not climbing over a wall. These are not the ones you're talking about, right? The illegal aliens. That's terrible. So I can't help it. I can't. My mind goes there. But a couple of things. I know, Mikey. I'm sorry. All right. Michelle, you can't help it. She's in Texas. So
it's fine.
It is. It's true. So first of all, a couple quick questions. If you could bang these out real quick.
Okay.
Energy versus your ego. There's two different things. You got energy that's coming out of us, from out of everybody, and then we have this ego that drives all the energy. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that. And I also like to know, you do tarot and spells, and you speak to archangels. Well, then the second question would be, then what is the communication that they respond to you with, verbally, in your head? And then also, how often can you have this conversation on a daily basis, all day long, as much as you like, or can you shut them off, or only when you call them? And who are these people to help us? And are they really helping us? Are they directing us in our lives? So I'm asking you several questions there, but if you could just compartmentalize.
So really quick on the ego, I say ego versus higher self, or the collective. And I say, for me, I used to think ego meant like my snotty self, I'm being egotistical. No, that's our mundane, lower. We have to have an ego to exist in this world. You're keeping yourself, existing in this world. But I always tell people, and I talked about this last Thursday in my Intuitive Insights class, about unplugging from our ego to plug into, make sure we always, when we're delivering a message to someone, to plug into or trying to connect to our intuition, to plug into the higher self or the collective. Some people will use spirit guides to do that. I think there are kind of like bumper pads in bowling. If you need them, you use them. And otherwise, you can just go straight to your higher self or source or whatever you believe that is. And for me, it's higher self connected to source, connected to this whole collective. Because like on my book, it's this picture of all this thing connected. So that's what ego versus, higher self. And it's all energy. It's just the consciousness versus the super consciousness. And then the second, into that, I connect, everybody connects in a different way. The best way I can explain it is, for me, it comes through with a lot of those clairs we were talking about. Some people, it'll be like a vision of like a 3D thing, but a lot of words and vision, like pictures and symbols, will come in my mind. And I'll even have sometimes people get out a sheet of paper, and because it won't be a complete paragraph, waxing poetic that I'm receiving from somebody, it'll be just words, just thoughts, random things, and they're putting them together, and I'm having them write them down as fast as they can, because things are coming to me so quickly. And then we'll look at it and they're going, oh God, you're not going to believe that, like last week this, and then and I don't make them do their own reading, but they're going, oh wow. So a lot of times it comes really fast. And a lot of times if I'm going slower and they're just asking me one or two questions like this versus that, it's real easy for me to I'm pretty spot on, not 100%. Again, I'd be running the world if I was. But this versus that, what does it look like? This versus that. And I do yes, no questions. And for me, I'm connecting to, I would say the same thing, my higher self, the collective. Just plugging into that and unplugging from, I'm not going to give advice, because you guys aren't going to call me and go, Michelle, what's your advice on this? Y'all smarter than y'all lived more. I mean, I'm not saying y'all are older, but you probably know about your life more than what you want to ask me. You don't want to ask my advice. You want to ask my intuitive knowingness. And so I don't believe in giving advice. I don't believe in going with the statistics. Oh, just because someone's broken up with you 3 times means they're going to do it again. That's statistically. I'm going to go with what I get from a combination of the cards and my own intuition that I receive. And it's very difficult to explain how I receive it, but that's why I do long classes on that. I mean, to teach people how to do it. Do I have to use the different modalities? I mean, pick up I don't know, this mouse pad. I mean, I could read with this, really. Give me 5 things and put them down in front of you, and I can read with them. If you drew 5 things, I could do a reading with them. And it's because it's really coming from that collective knowingness. That's why I think anybody could read.
Hold on.
She's saying they're tools.
Hold on. The cards, aren't they random? Or you're saying they're not random?
No, well, the cards have, if we're talking about tarot cards, they have a collective consciousness in the sense that they have set positions, that they're archetypes, they've been around. So I do believe they have some collective consciousness to them. They're not the magic themselves. I think it's you reading your experience plus your education concerning the cards plus, and some people will read cards with absolutely no intuition, and they'll still do a very good job if they know how to read cards. There's a lot of people who do that. They have they don't claim to be any kind of psychic reader. They just, and I'm good friends with a lot of those people. They know how to read the tarot cards. I combine it all for me because the intuition comes through. Plus I study it a lot and teach it. And to me, all those things and a lot of ethics, I call them the E's, they go into excellence. So if I can draw from all those areas, but try to leave out what you said, is the ego. And if I'm unplugging from that and plugging into just what I'm receiving, and usually the minute I try to put my spin on it or what do I think about this and I interpret it, that's when it's gone south. It's like, to me, it's like when you're doing cross-examination and you ask one question too many, that's exactly, like on cross-examine, you've got them backed in a corner, and then you ask that one question you shouldn't ask, and then they get to wiggle out of it. It's just like this. It's like when you try to tie it up with a neat little bow because you want to prove you're the best reader in the world. Well, it's not about me. It's about the person I'm reading for. It's not about me proving how great I am at what I do. It's nothing about me. It's about that person. And so they'll come back to me later and say, whether that helped them or not, and we'll come back for readings. And usually it does because I really try to step out of it and not give my take on the world. I mean, what a symbol means to us, what a police officer means to one person is not going to be what a police officer means to another person. And so I can't put my spin on it. I have to do by intuition. Hope that answers.
But then he was asking about, can you talk to these people all the time? Can you call them? Is it just turn them on, turn them off?
Yeah, I try to cut it off sometimes. I will try to cut it off. I think new readers, it's kind of like new lawyers. They always want to talk about, my daughter's in law school. And so right now it's like, oh, there's a grape on the floor. Somebody better not slip on that. It could be a slip and fall case or whatever. And when you're new at something, that's all you talk about. Now, this is exhausting from all these years. So I turn it off. I will say, I'm not open for business for all this spirit, all this stuff right now. I'm going to turn this off. So that's what I do.
And let me ask you something else there that's interesting. I keep thinking about your online readings. Tell us about your online readings. You're reading for whom? Who are the people that are coming? And I guess they're coming for all kinds of questions, but who are you reading the most? Is it for love or success or money, or what is it? Who are these people, if you will?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's changed a tiny bit. It used to be love. It was love, money, and health for primarily, as people got a little bit older. There'd be some younger ones, but now so many younger people come. And health obviously has come into the mix a little bit more, even with younger people, but not that much. I've added a lot that I'm seeing is throwing in the money area. I just lump into that, jobs, but change, life purpose. That's the big one now. Is like, am I really doing what I want to do? I was at home for all this time. So that could go into love, that could go into money and all that. I lump into that category, but life purpose has become a pretty big, and a some people will come in and they want reading, past life readings and all those kinds of things. My thing about past life readings, and I don't really want to do them unless there's a purpose. They're interesting, but unless there's some purpose, I think it's really easy for somebody to just, I'm not saying they do this. Easy for somebody to say, if I'm giving you a reading and you go, yeah, that makes absolutely no sense. Well, must be a past life then. And I hear that a lot. And I don't want to ever just fall back on that and just assume, that must be a past life, just so I sound like I'm right or something. So I really am very, very careful when I do past life readings that I'm really, really doing that intentionally, as opposed to just going, then it must be a past life. And just, I just really try to be really ethical about the way I read. I do a lot of business people, not that I give financial advice per se, but we will look at options. They own these 4 companies. What do these 4 companies look like? I think because of what I did, have my credentials before, maybe that brings certain clientele in. I don't mean for it to. I just think maybe it does at the beginning. But I read for all types of people, from every demographic. And that's the cool thing about our store too. We have every single demographic in our store, and people are just really, searching for some answers right now. Not that I have them all. And they don't certainly need, like this thing. If somebody doesn't believe that I see an angel, and I don't really sometimes, like an angel, alien, that's not what I'm used to seeing. They don't need to believe in what I believe. I was raised to convince people. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was raised just the info.
People. I was raised to convince people that you had to convince people what you believe. And I don't need to, in our store, you just believe what you want to believe, And so that's what I try to do.
What about the energy of the earth right now? What do you think about it right now? And can we do anything to help it? Because it's really in distress.
Yes, we can. It's hard work, but in my book, if we really will put to practice the magic of connection, principles of forming energy. So if I heard them say one time, you can't change the way that, I think it's some famous poet, the way the twig is in an ocean or something. I'm thinking, no, that's not correct. You can. We just don't believe we can. We don't believe if we really put our intention into helping Mother Earth or helping Earth, whatever you want to call it, helping the environment, with changing the form of that energy, I absolutely think we can change things. We can change the form of energy. And literally when I ask these quantum physicists that, I say, am I crazy saying that we can do this? And they're like, no, we can. People just have to practice it and believe they can do it.
So you're bringing up a good point. See, Mike, you just said you're saying a couple things, transmute, and you're also saying intention. Now, intention is what we put out that we want to pull in or change in front of us, the intention. And I noticed in my life, and I notice it in a lot of people's lives, and Mike could vouch for this too, and Leland and all of us here, and John, whenever we want something, we put this intention out, and the more we focus on it, the more it grows back into your life. It seems like we can and do whatever we want if we put enough attention into it. Attention creates the content of your life, if you will. But it's not like magic in a sense that it happens immediately. I don't wish that I could go to Europe tomorrow and spend the whole summer there. It's a slow process. It's like going through molasses. It takes a long time for the beginning of something to be pulled into your life. So when you say intention, how quick are you able to more quickly create the circumstance of your life more quickly because of the intention that you have with the help of these spirits and guides? Or is it just like everyone else? It's a slow molasses to crawl through to create. Oh, I think we froze her.
Oh, froze her.
Oh yeah, she froze. Well, that's a good picture.
It looks like she's intently listening.
Yeah, take a deep breath, Michelle. Take a deep breath. Relax. It's all good.
You want me to ask another question?
Okay.
So I'm going
Michelle,
to apologize to the hold easy. I'm going to apologize to the audience because I thought I was muting my microphone when I was coughing and hacking and all this stuff, and obviously my microphone is not on. It's another microphone, so I apologize.
And it's funny because no apology necessary, Mike. This happens. But the funny part was that as you're doing it, I'm texting you, Leland is texting you, Facebook, and the funny part is Michelle is not saying a word. And you know something? There's nothing to apologize for. However, if all of that coughing and hacking and gas was coming out of a different end of your body, then it would be problematic. At this
Thank
point,
God you didn't hear that
okay.
one. Do you have another question for our lovely guest, Mr. Easy?
Yeah, I just have another question because I know you have stores all over, a couple stores all over Texas, and I would love to visit this. And when I'm a comedian, I travel the whole country all the time, so I'm definitely popping into stores. But what I was wondering about when it comes to the SoulTopia or in the stores, you're having people come in, I'm sure, and there's millions of questions people asking you all the time, and they're probably wondering, like, I need a book on this. How do I do this? How do I do that? And you're doing readings, and so you're really tapped. You have this big brush of things that you're doing between from going to a lawyer to owning stores to doing readings. You've got to be overwhelmed. And you say you shut your energy off yourself to have people, these spirits, if you will, coming into you. What do you do to keep yourself centered on the earth, and what should we all do?
That's a great question. So for me, at the end of each exercise in the book, there's a little grounding. And I used to be like, oh, great. Somebody's going to tell me to ground because I don't want to. I like being woo, but no, I need to be centered and grounded. And it tells me, but most people will say to ground to the earth, like go hug a tree or get your feet in the sand and really just unplug. That unplugging we're talking about, different kind of unplugging, chill out and take some time for yourself. I like the beach, and the negative ions are good. That's why you have like Himalayan salt lamps. That's good for you. But I also believe if I only ground to the earth, then, those Gumby bear thing, not Gumby bears, gummy bears. not gummy bears, those Gumby things that they have at sales. I don't know. Maybe it's just a Texas thing, but they're like
it's what do you call it? The inflatable man there that goes, with the head with the crazy hair. Yeah.
Well, that's how I am. Like I'm just grounded here, but I'm still going, woo, like a bobblehead. So I have to ground to, like the heaven, like where I think I might be from. Because they say that if you go out at night and you look up at the stars, you'll look up kind of at the same place every time. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I look up there and I think, okay, I'm going to imagine. And so in my exercises, I have you also ground up in the heavens, for lack of a better word. So you are equally grounded between heaven and earth, for lack of a better way of saying it. So that's how an exercise I do. What I do for fun is I watch podcasts like y'all's and funny ones. I like funny things. I mean, comedians, and I think laughter's probably the highest vibration thing is to listen to. I think we need the comedians. Laughter is probably, like I said, one of the highest vibration things we can do for ourselves. So
that is the truth. When I work a comedy, a club or any gig, and I see bunches of people in the audience laughing for an hour and can't breathe and having a good time, there is no way I can walk out of that venue feeling down. There is no way. As a matter of fact, you ask any comedian in the country, when they get in the car and drive home, it could be a 3-hour drive home. The first 2 hours, you're on a high. It's almost like it is better than sex. It's always high energy. I know Cersei's going right for it. What are you talking about? But in all honesty, the energy that you give out comes back so much that you leave and it stays with you for hours. It really does.
What happens if you bomb?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting question. You're not interviewing me, but I will tell you this: years and years ago.
I know what he does. But he eats chicken wings on the car on the way home.
Right. That's my ice cream. No, in all honesty, many years ago, when I used to do shows, every time I would have a bomb, I would go in the car and I'd feel bad and crappy and think about it for days. It invaded you and so badly. And if you did well, you felt good. And if you did bad, you felt bad. And what I learned really early on after doing this for many years is that you don't allow the crowds to control your feelings. You go in the same way you came out. And that took a long, long time. But I still say the residual energy of people laughing is contagious and it can't be easily shaken. It just stays with you. I could get in a car 100 miles an hour. My mind will be running about all the things and the jokes and what to change and improve. And you just can't let it go. So
but
yeah,
you
you're correct.
You think about that energy just in general, right? So you could go into 100 people in a room, 5,000 people in a room, whatever it is. Okay. A smaller intimate, it's a couple hundred people. And you could do the same show 2 times. And one time everybody's dying. They can't breathe. And next time, half of them are dying, half of them are. So it depends on who's there, right? So it depends on your audience. So that's like life.
That's
It
right.
depends on who you're with.
That's this. And that's I think comedians, that's when you read the book, you can shift that energy of that room too. By probably one or two people, you do. And you're shifting their energy.
It's actually two ways, Michelle, because the first way is that you walk into a room and either they control you and you have to pull them in and bend to them, or you go out and you throw the lasso out at them and you pull them into your own box, which, by the way, is the best way to do it. It's almost like a car salesman. When you go in to buy a car, my father used to own a car dealership. And I remember when I first saw a car salesman, he told me how to sell a car. He said, the first thing you do is no matter what they come at you, you create a box. The first side, the second side, the next side, until you could close the box and make the sale. It was always like creating the box. It's the same thing in humor, because you actually have to box them in or they're going to box you in, and you don't want to be led by them. You want to lead them to the direction of humor that you want. And I see that when you talk about the book with the magic and energy. I just wanted to bring up one other quick point here, because magic, before you saying this, I'm a magician too. I do comedy and I do magic. I do ventriloquism, and magic is the kind of thing that you draw into your life quickly. So if I decide that I want to have egg foo young right now and it appears in front of my eyes, that's magic. However, there's a difference between getting up and going to the store and order it and getting it and bringing it home. That's magic too. That's creating intention in life and bringing it in on a slower level. My question to you is this: with your book, how is it that I read that book and understand how to draw energy and magic into my life more quickly than getting up and going to the car, to make it spontaneous, like real magic?
I love the question, because to me, everyone wondered why on the front of the book it said transform, which of how to transform negative energy. I think transform is where you start, and by the end of the book, you're transmuting. You're instantly changing, water into wine, as opposed to just slowly making the wine or doing the magic. And the answer to your question is practice. It takes, just like being a good comedian, being good podcasters, it takes some natural talent, but this takes practice to instantly be able to. I'm sure there's somebody on the earth can instantly transmute energy and turn magic, really turn this microphone into something else. I believe we can, but we don't really believe we can. I mean, like, if I really,
we live in a physical world. The physical world
Right.
is slow. Everything moves slow in the physical world. In the mental world, it happens spontaneous.
And so that's why I talk about, I
thought,
literally start with that energy. Yeah.
Start with the energy as the basis.
I go through the first chapter of the book. I kind of hesitated. I go through the laws of the universe in about 2 pages, because people would talk about it and I'd be like, oh, yawn. I mean, people throw those words around and they're just throwing all these words around. What do they even mean? That's judgy of me, but I'd be like, well, what do you mean by that? And so I literally, in about 2-3, like couple sentences, I'd say, this is what the law of attraction means. But before the law of attraction, and within that word's the law of action that people sometimes forget. There are like 6 laws before it and 6 laws after it that people kind of forget. There's the law of correspondence and the law of relativity and things that kind of have to all come together to get that law of attraction, which is the intention, to get it to go into transmutation. And it takes practice. And I'm not totally there yet myself. I mean, transmutation.
I looked up the word
magic.
and it says to change or alter in form. an appearance or nature, especially to a higher form, changing something from one form to another form, which is magic, and which is thought. When I think of something, it happens spontaneously. The thing is creating it into reality just as quickly as the real magic to me. And we would definitely I'm going to definitely read the book, The Magic Connection. I'm going to definitely read that book myself. And we'd love to have you come back on in the future. And because I know you have a new book that you're working on. Do you know the name of the new book?
They may change it, but it's the working start of the title is Spirited. Apparently now is Spirited, and the spirits that walk amongst us, or among us. I think it's among us. So and it's what we were talking about earlier. All the ones that I see, and how I get surprised that people are so surprised when they see them.
Please let us know when this is coming out.
Yeah.
Let us know. Let us know when it's coming out. We'd love to have you come on. We promote the book, and we'll have Sausage cough freshly on the new book.
I think maybe we got to call it Spirits, What I See and How I See It. Michelle Welch.
I like it.
That's good. I like it.
And where do we find you? For people that would like to do readings, where do we find Michelle Welch? Where would we go for that? MichelleWelch.com, I believe.
MichelleWelch.com is probably the easiest place. Yes. It's the easiest
people could log on there and come in actually have an appointment with you.
They can have an appointment. We can do Zoom. We can do phone. We can do in person now. So whatever people want to do. I have people calling me from out of the country, and I have people that live right here in Dallas. So it's great these days how we can talk next.
Do you believe, PZ, that we had 2 psychic lawyers on in 1 year? Like, who
That's
knew?
correct. Yeah. Mark Anthony.
Yeah. Anthony.
I listen. Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, 2 psychic. You see, it's something about lawyers becoming psychics. What's that all about? Just imagine that, Mike. But just imagine that her inside of a courtroom, and she walks in, and the guy says, "I need you to defend me. I really didn't rob them." And she goes, "Oh yes, you did. I can't handle this guy. He's not for me."
I just say, be quiet, because I can't put you on the stand if you tell me the truth.
She still has to defend him to the best of her abilities, no matter if he did it or didn't do it.
Greatest lawyer joke. I remember, quick lawyer joke was this: 2 lawyers are partners, and the first lawyer says, the second lawyer says, "Hey, are you sleeping with the secretary?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "Good, then you fire." What a bad note to end on. Bad note to end. MichelleWelch.com. Please go to her website, take a look at it, and you're a delightful guest, and we hope to have you back when you have your new book out. Thank you so much for coming on here. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys so much for having me. You're wonderful. I look forward to seeing you again.
Yes, we do as well. And we like to thank our producer, Leland Best, and also our booker, John Galasso, who has a wonderful book out about comedy and humor. And we'll keep that on the screen for just a couple of moments there. It's justlaugh.org. It's called A Smile, a Grin, and a Laugh That's Life. That book is for sale on his website, and he books all our talent for our shows. We want to thank him. And that's a really great book to read. I'm in that, by the way. I'm not bragging, but I'm in that book. It's a great book about humor. Check that out. And you can catch us. Hey, if you like what you see here, what are we supposed to do, Mikey?
I don't know. Tell them to subscribe, like us. Now you opened the comments up, so now I'm waiting for that to start happening again.
Yeah, so get all the negative comments. Yeah, I'm going to get all the cancel culture people said, "What jokes did he post during the podcast?"
Oh, yeah. Listen, don't let him go in that Chinese one. Come get him.
Yeah, the Chinese joke is a cancel culture joke for sure.
You better
I could say that because I'm half Asian. Did you know I'm half Asian? Look at me right now. I'm disoriented.
Oh, all right. All right. I think it's enough right now.
Yeah, it's enough.
What are we doing?
That was too much fun. But we'll close on that anyway. And I'll see you next time. Thank goodness for tape.